That's Take Me to the Opera with me, Zainab Badawi. Watch on iPlayer.
Hello, this is BBC News. I'm Victoria Fritz with the latest headlines for viewers in the UK and around the world. Ahead of his mother's funeral, King Charles will complete his tour of the UK's 4 nations with a trip to Wales. And still they come for a second night. Thousands queue up to pay their respects to Queen Elizabeth II.
I'm Mark LaBelle live in Westminster, and I'll be talking to some of those who've come to say a final farewell.
Morning in the Mediterranean. We report from Cyprus, a Commonwealth country with close ties to Britain and its monarch.
Sad, gutted. Wishing I could go home to be part of it, to be honest. She's like part of the family, isn't she? She's been there for everyone's life, and it's like losing your nan, I suppose.
Officials in Ukraine say they've discovered the bodies of more than 400 people after liberating a city captured by Russian troops in April. And farewell to Federer, the man some argue is tennis's greatest ever player, says he's hanging up his racket. Hello and welcome to the programme. King Charles is to visit Wales today to complete his tour of all 4 nations of the UK before returning to London to again accompany his siblings in a silent vigil by his mother's coffin. Thousands of members of the public are still waiting to pay their respects to the late monarch, with the queue in central London now around 6.5 kilometres long with an 11-hour wait. Queen Elizabeth's lying in state lasts another 72 hours or so before her state funeral on Monday. Now, new details have been made public. Dan Johnson has the latest.
Public engagement is already an early hallmark of King Charles' reign. Even in grief, he's made time to meet people. First in Scotland, before greeting crowds on a visit to Northern Ireland. He also shook hands outside Buckingham Palace shortly after the Queen's death was announced. And today, he and the Queen Consort will travel to Wales, completing the 4 corners of the kingdom and emphasising the ties of union. The other royals have been out across the country too. The Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine, were at Sandringham in Norfolk to see the flowers left for the Queen and to exchange a few words.
I love he's got his little guardsman t-shirt on. And at Paddington as well. Yeah. I was saying, I think Paddington might have knocked the corgi off the top spot. I'm not sure how they'll take the corgis, won't take that very well.
We spoke to William and we spoke to Kate. They both said about his little outfits, how nice they were. They're just really nice and genuine people. To say like thanks for the Queen, everything she's done and all the things they're doing for everyone, it's just so nice.
And William was asked about that walk behind his grandmother's coffin on Wednesday.
Doing the walk yesterday was challenging. That's like a few memories. Really good to
The Earl and Countess of Wessex met people in Manchester and lit candles for the Queen at the city's cathedral. And this was Princess Anne, back in Scotland to greet crowds in Glasgow. As the solemn stream of mourners continues paying their respects in Westminster, we're learning more detail about Monday's state funeral. There have been rehearsals in the darkness of the early hours to check everyone knows their place and performs their role with perfect precision. And it is the senior armed service, 150 sailors of the Royal Navy, who have the traditional responsibility of hauling the state gun carriage.
Will actually be the last thing I do in uniform before retiring. So for me to be able to convey Her Majesty to her resting place in my last day in uniform is an honour that it's really difficult to put into words.
My grandfather lined the streets for her coronation, and I'm going to be lining the streets for a funeral, and to think I get some kind of symmetry and circularity out of that, and that I now get to welcome His Majesty the King onto the throne and serve him. And my grandfather and my father both served the Queen.
This area, Parliament Square, has been really busy with people during the lying in state, but by Monday morning it will all be secured because it's only a short journey from Westminster Hall across to Westminster Abbey, but gathered inside there will be hundreds of world leaders and heads of state. It's such a rare occasion for so many of them to be in the same place at once. So consider the work of the police and many others in organising all this and keeping everyone safe. Sniffer Dog Scout is here from Cumbria, one of many extra resources brought into the capital. At the end of the service, in the place the Queen was crowned, 2 minutes of silence will be observed across the country. Then the procession heads from the Abbey up the Mall past Buckingham Palace and along Constitution Hill to Hyde Park Corner and the Wellington Arch, where the coffin will be transferred to the state hearse for the drive to Windsor, up the long walk to the castle, and then St George's Chapel for another service at 4 o'clock. There's then a private ceremony when the Queen's coffin will be laid to rest, alongside that of Prince Philip. Before that, 3 more days for the public to pay their respects, in their own way, for their own reasons. The queue last night stretched 5 miles, all the way back to Southwark, approaching its full capacity. The long wait has been sustained by kindness and friendship. So you've known each other for what?
7 hours.
Just 7 hours. And now we've got a group circle of friends that we're going to be keeping in contact with sending, updates, which is beautiful. And event was...
Yeah, so it's another wonderful thing that the Queen's done for us.
That is the only sound punctuating the profound, solemn silence. A signal every 20 minutes for a change of guards. And tonight, it will be Her Majesty's 4 children, including the King, who will take their place and stand at the 4 corners of her coffin in quiet vigil. Dan Johnson, BBC News, Westminster.